What's your ideal forever? When you're building something, a business, a brand, a new career, it's easy to tell yourself this pace is temporary. You're working 14-hour days. You're eating lunch at your desk. You're skipping workouts, telling your kids, I'll have more time soon. You justify it by believing that one day, all of this grind is going to pay off and you'll finally slow down. But here's the problem with all of that. Almost no one actually slows down. Once you normalize an unsustainable pace, you make it your default operating system. So you wire your brain and your business to expect urgency, crisis mode, and constant output. So even when you hit that financial goal, you don't relax. You just find new ways to fill your schedule and chase the next level. This is where founders and high achievers, they really get trapped. They confuse building a season with building a life. They treat intensity as a temporary tool, but they keep it running until it becomes the only way they know how to work. I have lived that cycle. I told myself, once I hit X amount of money, I'll rest. Then I hit the number, and I just raised it. I told myself, once the team is in place, I'll step back. Then I found new projects to keep me busy. Eventually, I realized I wasn't really building the freedom that I wanted. I was building a machine that really depended on me being in high gear forever. That is why the question, what is your ideal forever, matters so much. If you can't live your daily life, your daily pace right now for the next 20 years, you are not building a life. You are building a prison. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to reverse that thinking. Design a workflow that you can sustain for decades and actually live the life that you are building while you're building it. So here we go. Before you can design your ideal forever, you have to get brutally honest about what you're not willing to keep. Okay? What are you not willing to do? That is where you start. So let's define your never again list. Before you can build your ideal forever, you need a never again list. The non-negotiables that you refuse to allow back into your life. This list is more powerful than any vision board because it forces you to draw hard boundaries around your time, your energy, and your mental health. So most people, they build their future by stacking on more goals, more revenue streams, more habits. But just as important as deciding what to add is deciding what you are never going to accept again. Without this clarity, you are going to unconsciously drift back into old patterns, even while you're chasing this better life. For me, my never again list included never again building a business that requires me to work nights and weekends. Optional, right? Never again committing to daily meetings that are not essential. Never again tying my worth to hitting arbitrary growth numbers. Never again working with clients who are going to drain my energy. Your list might be different, but it needs to be brutally honest. Think about the habits, the schedules, the relationships that have left you depleted in the past. You got to ask yourself, if I woke up tomorrow and this thing was in my life again, would I feel trapped? Is this something I could sustain for 20 years without resentment? Write it down. Be unapologetic, and remember, saying never again does not mean that you're lazy or you're unambitious. It means that you are building a life that actually is livable. This list becomes your filter. Every opportunity, partnership, or habit, it either passes through or it gets cut. Without it, you risk building success on the same exact shaky foundation that burned you out before. Okay, now that we've defined exactly what won't be part of your forever, the next step is deciding what absolutely has to be there. the non-negotiable building blocks of a life that you can sustain indefinitely. And that's where we're headed next. This is identifying your non-negotiable core. If your never again list acts as the guardrails for your life, your non-negotiable core is the engine that really keeps it moving in the right direction. This is the set of elements that make your life worth living. The activities, the relationships, and the conditions that, if removed, would make everything else feel hollow. The trap that most high achievers fall into is filling their days with things that they should do while actually neglecting the handful of activities that actually make them feel alive. Over time, that creates a gap between the life that you say you want and the one that you're actually living. So here's how to define your core. First, audit your energy. Look back over the last 90 days. Which activities left you feeling lighter, more focused, more present? These are the clues to what needs to stay. Second, spot the multipliers. Some activities give you returns far beyond the time that you put in. A single conversation that unlocks a deal, a morning workout that fuels your entire day. These are often non-negotiable. Third, define the daily minimums. Even if life gets chaotic, these are the things that you still make time for. For me, it's one deep creative work block, exercise, and unstructured time with my family. Your non-negotiable core, it should fit on a single page. If it doesn't, you're trying to protect way too much. The point isn't to guard every little preference. It is to identify the few essentials that keep you grounded, healthy, and moving toward your ideal forever. So when you commit to these non-negotiables, you really stop negotiating with yourself. You no longer say, if I have time. You build your days around them. And because they're tied to your deepest values, they don't just keep you productive, they keep you fulfilled. Okay, now, with your guardrails and your core in place, you now have a basic blueprint. But a blueprint is useless without the right pace. So next, we're going to talk about how to design a workflow that you can sustain for decades without burning out. Here we go. This is designing a sustainable workflow. Your workflow is the heartbeat of your ideal forever. It's not just what you work on, it's how you approach it. It's how it fits into the rhythm of your days and how it allows for recovery without losing momentum. So this is the first mistake that people make. They design workflows for maximum output in the short term, not maximum consistency over decades. They load up their schedule with back-to-back calls, endless context switching, and unrealistic deadlines. So sure, they'll push through for a while, but that system, it has an expiration date. So if you want something that you can sustain indefinitely, the key is to build for energy cycles, not time blocks. So first, anchor your work to your peak energy windows. Okay? Most people know exactly when they're sharpest. For me, that's usually early morning. That's when I tackle all the deep creative work, not emails or admin tasks. If you design your workflow to match your natural rhythms, you are going to get more done in less time without feeling drained. Second, the 60-30 rule for work, right? Work for 60 focused minutes, then give yourself 30 minutes away from the desk. This is not wasting time. This is letting your brain reset so that your next hour is just as productive. Third, the single core priority each day, right? Each day you want to decide on the one thing that moves you furthest towards your long-term vision. Get it done first, before the noise takes over. Even if the rest of your day collapses, you've already made progress on what matters most. Fourth, recovery is a task. If your workflow does not explicitly include recovery, exercise, leisure, sleep, even doing nothing, then you are planning for burnout. Recovery is not a reward, it's part of the work. When you adopt a sustainable workflow, your days are going to start to feel less like a sprint and a lot more like a steady climb. You stop waking up in a panic, wondering how you're going to get it all done, and you start ending each day with energy left over. That's the real measure of a system that you can live with forever. Okay? Now, we've got a nice little workflow that works, okay, with your energy instead of against it. The next step is to make sure that you're building in flexibility. Because even the best system, it falls apart if it's too rigid. So what does building in flexibility actually mean? Build this into your forever plan. This is the irony that most high performers miss. The more rigid your system, the more fragile it becomes. So when you design a life and a workflow that you can sustain indefinitely, you have to expect the unexpected. Sick days, family emergencies, seasonal dips in motivation, or even once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that kind of throw your normal rhythm off. If your plan cannot flex without breaking, it's not your forever. It's just another pressure cooker. So here's why flexibility matters. Most people think that they are going to have more willpower or more control in the future. They won't. What they will have is the same human limitations and the same unpredictable curveballs. And that is why flexibility is the insurance policy for your forever plan. So here's exactly how to build it. First, the 80% rule. Never design your calendar or your capacity to run at 100%. Leave 20% of your time and your energy uncommitted. That buffer is exactly what absorbs the unexpected without derailing you. Second, swap. Do not skip. If a core task can't happen in its usual slot, train yourself to swap it with another lower intensity task instead of just skipping it entirely. This keeps your momentum without forcing perfection. Third, variable intensity weeks. Structure your year so that some weeks run at full focus and others at a lighter pace. This kind of ebb and flow keeps you from burning out, and it allows your creativity to recharge. Fourth, emergency mode protocol. Know in advance what your minimum viable day is going to look like. If everything goes wrong, you can still do this 1 hour stripped down version of your workflow, and you can keep the streak alive. Flexibility is not a lack of discipline. It's discipline adapted to reality. It's what allows your system to absorb shocks and keep moving forward, but without losing your integrity. A flexible forever plan doesn't just survive life's interruptions. It thrives because of them. Got it? All right. Once you actually have flexibility in place, the real magic starts to happen when you start aligning that flexible system with your identity. Because your forever plan, it only sticks if it's built for who you actually are. So let's get into this. Aligning your forever plan with your true identity. What does that mean? This is where most perfect systems die. They are designed for a version of you that doesn't actually exist. You build this calendar for the person that you wish you were. The one who loves 5 a.m. wake-up calls, who thrives on sales calls, who enjoys working 60 hours a week. And then you wonder why it all collapses after 2 months. The truth, your forever plan, it has to fit the person you actually are today, not the fantasy version that you think will finally be good enough. So here's step 1. Own your rhythms. If you are not a morning person, then stop trying to be one. If you think best in long stretches, block for deep work. If you need more social time to feel energized, design for that. Your forever is not about fighting your nature. It's about harnessing it. Here's step 2. Build around your energy curve. Pay attention to when your brain is sharpest, when your body feels strongest, and when you are most likely to crash. Then put the most important work in the high energy zones. and the low stakes tasks in the dips. Here's step 3. Eliminate identity friction. If a task makes you dread opening your laptop, it's likely misaligned with your natural strengths. Either delegate it, automate it, or redesign how you do it so it doesn't drain you every single time. Here's step 4. Design for your values. If freedom is a top value, do not build a system that just chains you to a desk. If mastery is your driver, carve out consistent time for skill building. Your forever plan should express your values just as much as your goals. When your workflow matches your identity, something shifts. You stop white-knuckling your way through the day, and you start moving through it naturally. The plan doesn't just work, it feels right. And when it feels right, it sticks. So, now, alignment is powerful, right? But it's not enough. To make your forever plan unshakable, you have to master this final piece, measuring what matters so you can keep it alive for decades. So how do we do that? This is measuring what matters, and this is how you keep your forever alive. This forever plan isn't something that you just set and forget. It is a living system, and if you don't track it, it's going to quietly decay until you are right back where you started. The danger is that most people measure the wrong things. They track outputs, revenue, followers, hours worked, but they ignore the inputs that actually keep the system alive. So let's get into step 1. Define your forever metrics. These are not vanity numbers. They are signals that your plan is working. For example, energy score, 1 to 10 daily. Is your system leaving you energized or depleted? Focus hours. How much of your day is spent on deep work versus busy work? Aligned opportunities. Are the projects and clients that you're attracting aligned with your ideal forever? Stress recovery time. How quickly can you reset after a challenge? Here's step number 2. Track them in a visible way. Put your forever metrics somewhere that you really can't ignore. Maybe a whiteboard in your office, maybe a simple spreadsheet, even a daily journal entry. The visibility matters because it turns vague feelings into hard data. Here's step 3. Course correct quickly. If you see your energy score dipping for more than a week, you fix it now, not in 6 months, okay, after some crazy breakdown. The same goes for opportunities that don't align. The earlier you catch it, the less damage it's going to do. Step 4. Celebrate the right wins. The win isn't just I made X dollars this month. The win is I made X dollars this month and I felt at peace doing it. If the peace disappears, the number is going to lose its meaning. When you measure what matters, you stop drifting. You can feel and prove that your life and your work are still sustainable. That is how your ideal forever stays alive for 10, 20, 30 years, instead of becoming another abandoned productivity system, which is just going to collect dust. Because here's the truth, guys. Anyone can design a flashy new plan for a week. But designing something that you can live with for forever, that is rare. And it's the difference between building a career that burns bright and burns out, and building a life that keeps getting better every single year. That's what it's all about. You know what it's also about? It's also about my newsletter, which is located at natberman.com. It's weekly. What's also awesome is my community. You can reach us at joinbrandbuilt.com. I kind of flub that, I don't care. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I would love for you to. And I'll love for you to see our next video. Bye-bye.